Our
So
turn.
this is going to be a formal debate between me and JC. We're going to be doing um 2 minute openers for both interlocutors, 10-minute cross examination, and 2 minute closers. I'm pretty sure Wavy's going to be the judge, and he's going to be the one timing this correctly.
Yo, yo,
You're going to be timing correctly, right?
that's bitch.
All right, I can start with my opener as soon as Wavy tells me when he starts the timer.
All
Yeah.
right, 2 minutes starts now.
All right, man. I'm going to be debating for Alethic nihilism. My goal is just to motivate Alethic nihilism. Alethic nihilism, we can just say the view is that there are no truth properties, or we can just say nothing is literally true or false, which is just, the common sense of Alethic nihilism. Um, in this debate, I hope this to be a good linear dialect with, no meta talk, no, bad faith debating. Just, good debates from two good friends. But yeah, that's all I'm gonna say in my opening.
Okay, perfect, perfect, perfect. So yeah, my opening. I think my objective in the debate will be to find common ground between me and Polar on an agreement, as that's what a debate should entail each time. And yeah, I think we should have a pretty linear dialect. As Polar stated himself, at least I was supposed to say something like truth points or something like that. Fully, I have pre this debate, I have no knowledge on Alethic nihilism, so I'm pretty happy to see if my debating skills will bring me anywhere into this debate. That'll be my opener.
All right, ready,
Formal.
set, go.
All right, the cross examinations have started. The way I intend to motivate Alethic nihilism, I have four ways I can try to motivate Alethic nihilism. But we can just start from number one. I have all this written down, by the way. So for one, the first way to motivate Alethic nihilism is just that truth predicates are redundant. If you read any book on Alethic nihilism, you'll see philosophers mainly say the word true does no real work. For example, if we have the proposition snow is white, then we also have the proposition that it is true that snow is white. Both of these propositions seem to be exactly the same. And these philosophers also go to say if adding it is true changes nothing, then truth may not be a genuine property at all, and we can just see it's rather to be something such as a linguistic convenience, which actually holds no bearing at all. The second way I intend to motivate Alethic nihilism is it leads to absurdity, right? So that's reductio. So we can say truth creates paradoxes, or if we were to adopt a truth, it would lead us to such things such as contradictions and paradoxes. So we can say, like the liar's paradox, many semantic paradoxes arise because we assume truth exists. Example, this statement is false. If it is true, it's false. If it is false, it's true. The paradox only is paradoxical because of the concept of truth. If we remove truth, there are no paradoxes. If we remove truth, there are no contradictions. The third way I intend to motivate Alethic nihilism by saying, well, you can explain language without truth. This just goes to say truth isn't needed. So instead of saying that statement or that proposition is true, we can easily just say, okay, I accept that statement, or okay, that statement follows from the evidence, or okay, that statement is warranted, right? So what we just want to say here is the Alethic nihilist argues that justification, acceptance, coherence, I guess usefulness, etc., can all do explanatory work without saying truth. So truth is not needed there. And then fourth, I just want to say the fourth way I intend to motivate Alethic nihilism by saying it has no clear nature. So in any debate, in any literature, if they ask what is truth, let's see how many answers you get. If you ask someone who's truth, they can say correspondence, they can say coherence, they can say pragmatic success, they can say deflationary equivalence. There's so many answers. Truth has no clear nature. So there is a massive disagreement. We see within, I guess, the literature, like philosophers, there's a massive convergence of disagreements, right? No one can actually decide what truth is. So if we can just say, if we can't even decide what truth is, then we have no reason, or we have reasons to doubt there is such properties. And those are my four motivations for Alethic nihilism.
Okay, perfect. Polar, I would like to ask you, whenever you say you're trying to motivate elite nihilism, what does motivation entail within this dialectic?
What does motivation entail? Motivation can just entail reason to adopt something, or that would be a byproduct of motivation there. The
Okay. So you're
byproduct of
trying
motivation.
to push out that elite nihilism is the thing that we're going to follow, and is going to be, something we
Yes.
adopt within
Yes,
this.
I want to
Okay.
say yes, I want to say Alethic nihilism is internally consistent, and we should adopt Alethic nihilism. So, and I don't think
Yeah.
it's
So are you trying
problematic.
to proclaim that elite nihilism is right?
No, not necessarily. Well, this would, I mean, a byproduct of me motivating Alethic nihilism would say it is correct, or I don't really think that's like necessary for me to say. I'm just here to say, like, we should accept Alethic nihilism rather than accepting truth. This is what should happen.
Okay, so I think you're if we accept elite nihilism and via your own words, you think we should accept elite nihilism over truth as elite nihilism presupposes that truth is not real, right? Or there is no truth.
Yes, Alethic nihilism says that there is no genuine truth property, or there is no truth at all. There's no
Okay,
such
okay,
property.
so I think whenever we adopt or take an elite nihilism, we're taking it to be a true view, and so therefore, if elite nihilism is the true view,
I
therefore
disagree
something
with that.
is true, therefore elite nihilism is false.
Okay, I see what you're saying, but I disagree with that, right? When we adopt Alethic nihilism, we don't say Alethic nihilism is true, because that's literally what Alethic nihilism goes to go against. If that were the case, then it would be self-defeating. Rather, Alethic nihilists don't say, yeah, Alethic nihilism is true. Like I said earlier, in my third example for why we should deny truth, like I said, we can accept things without saying it's true. In example, I accept that statement. I can say, I accept Alethic nihilism. That's not me saying it's true. That statement follows from the evidence. I can say, well, based off what I've seen, Alethic nihilism follows. That's not saying it's true. Like, I can also say that statement is warranted. That's distinct from saying it's true. So I can say, yeah, Alethic nihilism is warranted based off the evidence. That's not saying it's true. That just gives us reason to accept it. So that wouldn't necessarily be the case.
Okay, perfect. So once again, for clarity, where you are, you know, motivating and pushing out. Okay, so you're trying to push out and adopt the factor that something to be adopted or taken in or believed, it does not have to directly come out as something that is true. Correct?
Yes, it doesn't have to be true for us to accept it.
Okay, perfect. And now, should I ask you this? Why would we accept a falsehood?
Yeah, Alethic nihilism denies the aletheia properties in general. Like when I say
Okay,
aletheia properties, I'm
perfect.
talking about truth and falsity. So Alethic nihilism denies things being true, and it also denies things being false. I should have mentioned that in the beginning.
Thank you. Yeah,
No
it's like
problem.
outside of that, why would we adopt a falsehood? Not even talking about electionalism right here, but why would we adopt a falsehood?
While we adopt a falsehood, I don't think. Well, that's a loaded question because that's presupposing Alethic nihilism is false, or that Alethic nihilism is false or
Yeah,
could be
I
false.
already
That would
keyworded
deny
that
the
we're not talking
falsicity
about
properties.
electionalism right now. I'm asking you why we would take a falsehood. As I mean, even if we were to talk about electionalism here, if it denies truth and false, then there is no true reasoning for it to be there. So I mean, if you would like to answer that question or reply to that about what the reasoning for electionalism would suggest, you can.
Well, yeah, when we talk about that, like with the Alethic nihilist, you can replace, like you say, why do we have reason to accept something that's false? Alethic nihilism can just replace those truth conditions with acceptability conditions. So if we, let's say, like I gave a conceptual scheme argument, and I wouldn't go to say that my conceptual scheme is true. I would say, based off the argumentation that I presented, my conceptual scheme is acceptable. So it doesn't have to hinge on truth properties. You can say if something isn't acceptable, then you can just deny it. You don't have to necessarily say if like we shouldn't hold to this thing because it's false. If that's what
Okay.
like that's a proper
Okay.
answer to your question.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right, so yeah, okay, so you're just proclaiming that for something to be accepted, it doesn't have to, or electionalism doesn't uphold these properties, and for something to be conceived, accepted, or adopted, it doesn't have to uphold or hinge off being something like truth apt, right?
Yeah. For something to
Okay,
be accepted, it doesn't need truth properties. Yes.
okay. And what do you think acceptance means?
We can say accepting, I guess, is the act of consenting to receive or undertake something.
Okay,
I think those are
okay.
pretty good proper definitions for acceptance there.
Okay. And would you say this is your idealization and conceptual view on what acceptance entails?
Wait, what is that question asking? I'm confused.
Yeah, it's just asking like like whenever someone asks you, what do you think this means? You're obviously looking, you would obviously be referring to the concept of what it's going to be correct or the idealization of what it's going to be correct.
Sure, I guess.
Okay, perfect. So what I'm asking you here is, your views, obviously. Why would I'm asking you, nothing crazy, but like you understand what conceptual refinement is, correct?
Conceptual refinement, no.
Is just going to be a branch of or a more simplistic view on conceptual engineering as taking words, linguistics, and views on instead of face value, we look at them in a more complex and depth way on why we're going to take them and not refine them and view them as something lesser at that point to try to rebuild them.
Okay, well, if you're asking just why does these words or why does these definitions have any meaning, I guess I can just give a simple argument. If we were to implement these words into
No,
my
no, no,
scheme,
that's no, Paul. Here. That's not what I'm asking. What I'm pushing out here right now. Yeah, it's a bit of a time waste kind of too, but is Alethic nihilism. We could take it to be the case that at face value is not really going to matter if we presuppose or import that conceptual refinement exists, because obviously we take it the case that things exist. If things exist, more things exist. I mean, that's a pretty simple
what do
thing
you
to
take
say.
existence to be?
What I
'Cause
take
I
existence
don't
to be,
think
I take
that's an entailment
existence to be.
relationship.
Interlocutor Polar can go first. 1, 2, 3, go.
All right. I think this was a very good and substantive debate. Like I said in the opener, I didn't want this to go to meta. It didn't go to meta. I didn't want this to be bad faith. It wasn't bad faith at all. I could say this was a very fun and entertaining debate. I'd like to do more formals like this with JC if he was down to. But I do think I won this debate just in virtue of my 4 motivations not being properly attacked. Um, I think I think all of my motivations, my 4 motivations for Alethic nihilism, were ones of which were virtuous within this dialect. So I think they did go through. I think they behaved virtuously and non-problematically. None of my reasons offered up any attack relations towards another one of my reasons. So we can say they were internally consistent with one another. I don't think JC offered up any proper defense relations towards them. I don't think he offered up any attacking relations towards them either. I think everything went through, and I think, it's a very good debate, but I do think I came out on top.
Yeah, all right, yeah. So for my closer, I think it's a very good debate. I think it's a very, good faith debate. There was no meta talk, no pushing towards that meta. I think it's a very good faith debate. There was no, bad faith between two friends. I think it's pretty entertaining and very, informative for people that want to learn on nihilism and stuff like that. I do believe I did lose this debate, as I do not think I brought any, defenses or attacks to his argument. I think I was more on the skeptic view towards his argument. And I would have loved to go into more conceptual refinement on that, because I believe that was really like the only point you could have for me going, somewhat of stalemate or rel with this argument, was because he couldn't reply to that in time. But, other than that, I think it's a very nice debate, and I would love to do this again.
All right, cool. So now that that's done, I'll just give my verdict. But anyways, in regards to that, nevertheless, Polar winning.